Attention, fans of Unfinished Business Television, we're thrilled to announce our proud partnership with Super 7, the ultimate destination for collectors and pop culture enthusiasts alike. Visit super74.com/AJEPYX today. Use promo code AJEPYX, and let's keep the good times rolling here at Unfinished Business Television.
Okay, so today we have the legendary Mark Holton, who you've probably seen in such classics as Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Teen Wolf, and of course Leprechaun. We're so excited to have you on because Jeff and I, anytime we've seen you in movies as a kid, we're always instantly gravitating to you because you just have that presence that is always unforgettable. So, first question I got to ask you is what got you started in acting?
Um, when I was in high school, I had a really rotten grade in English, and they had a intramural contest for I think poetry and also standard oratory. And the teacher seemed to think that maybe I needed to bring my grade up enough to keep from failing. So she said, maybe you should enter that. And I went, okay. And I'm going, well, what the hell do I do now? you know? And I had bought the soundtrack to the movie Patton. So this is back in the early 70s, 72 probably. And I pretty much memorized Patton's address to his men, which is totally inappropriate for a small town in Oklahoma, in the buckle on the Bible Belt, because it's just ridden with, lots of expletives, let's put it that way. But I committed it to memory, and I thought, well, this isn't me speaking. This is a character. This is General George S. Patton. So argue with that. And it worked. Kept me out of, I didn't get any punishment or anything. And I won a little gold medal. And that kind of standing in front of a live audience and getting reaction. You could imagine the reaction you get from a high school auditorium saying words like General Patton said. Um, so I guess that kind of put the hooks in me, like, well, this is kind of cool. You know, I'm feeding off of this. I didn't realize it at the time, but that's what was happening.
Mm. And when did you decide, I guess, okay, it's time for me to go to LA and, make my mark as an actor? Mm.
Well, I had I had pretty much exhausted all my avenues or whatever. I had, gone through the high school thing and the college thing and the outdoor drama and the non-union dinner theater. And I tried radio for a very short period of time and hated it. And at that time, they had a format. I don't think they have it anymore. And if they don't, they shouldn't. Uh, called MOR, Middle of the Road. And it had a playlist that I had no control over. So I was actually following Willie Nelson with Blondie. And I thought, okay, this isn't working out for me. And I was watching a late night show, probably Tom Snyder. Your older listeners will probably know who Tom Snyder was. And I think he was interviewing, it might have been Lee Majors, but I'm not sure. And he said, and he got the question, why did you choose to go to Hollywood instead of Broadway? And he said, well, I had been to Manhattan, and it was rubbing elbows. And I thought, I know myself well enough psychologically to know that I'm going to do better rubbing bumpers than rubbing elbows. And I thought, well, that's pretty much me from a small town in Oklahoma. And now I had never been to the West Coast, and I loaded up my little Pontiac Astra, which think Vega and Chevrolet Vega, same thing. And I had I think a 10-inch black and white or a 13-inch black and white television, a boombox, a little thing of cassette tapes, and the rest of you know my essentials, and just headed out. And I had a friend that had been to LA, and he had a good buddy there that they had taken acting classes together, and they were writing together. And he mentioned that I was coming out, and the guy said, "Well, just tell him to stay with us till he can find an apartment." Okay, number one, problem solved. And it was just a series of events like that that I can't describe any other way, seriously, than divine intervention. It went too smooth. I had my ups and downs, and a lot of downs, but all in all, it was when I look back on it, I was complaining about stupid shit. You know, I was blessed beyond measure, and I didn't know it.
Yeah, so I guess that would lead us into Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which is one of the big reasons that we brought you on. I mean, that was one of the VHSs that my parents used to show me all the time, and I was always rewinding the part with you getting beat up in the pool and the trick gum. And, I always wondered, first of all, before I ask you how you got into the film,
Mhm.
what was in the trick gum? That's always been on my mind for years.
Well, it was neither spearmint nor fruit, Andre. It was concocted to read on camera. That was its only purpose, and not kill the actor. And it tasted horrible. And it left a little stain right here in between takes. I think I only had to do it like two times, but they load you up and you're going, and it dribbles out. And so they would have to wipe that area off, and there would be like this black streak left over. So they're going in there with alcohol and rubbing the crap out of it, then putting the makeup over it. Okay, load him up. So there's your answer. It did not taste like spearmint or fruit. It tasted like I don't know, toxic sludge. Whatever.
Mm.
But of course, like in landing the part of Francis, obviously this big, overgrown, spoiled child. How did that come to you, or at least in terms of the audition process and then meeting Paul Rubens to get the part?
Well, I don't think I had a preliminary, and for some odd reason, and at that time you would have a initial call with an assistant casting person, and then you would come back maybe for the casting person, and then you would go before the director, and then you had to go up the chain and pass all the tests until you got to the point of where you were finally rejected, or or you finally got the job. And I think they just sent me straight to this audition in a bungalow on Warner Brothers, and I'm going, wow, this is kind of unusual. And I walked in, and everybody that had anything to do with that film was in that room. The producers, the writers, the director. God knows how many other people were in there, but there were a lot of people. Uh, from what I was used to, there were way a lot of people. And we had a few, questions and answers or whatever. And the producer, who I knew was the ex executive, we'll call him the president of Warner Brothers. So I was more worried about him than anybody. um, and he said, "Well, now we're going to have you read with Paul." And at this point, the only time I had seen Pee Wee was on Letterman once, maybe a couple of times. I don't know. And I thought, this guy's nuts. This is crazy. I don't know what this is all about. I hadn't seen any of, the Pee Wee character except for that. So when they said Paul, I thought, well, that must be the guy that plays Pee Wee. And I looked over and there's Paul Rubens. And I thought, well, I assume that's the guy that does the Pee Wee thing because he was out of uniform, so to speak. And we did the I Know You Are, but what am I scene? And they said, okay, well, thank you for coming in, Mark. And of course, I left going, what else could I have done? And then, you don't know, what's going to go happen. So I drove back to my little bachelor efficiency in Glendale and turned on my little answering machine, and my representation at that time said, you need to call in. So I called in. They said, you have the role. I booked you. And I said, well, okay. Well, that's great. And so there you have it. And then I would find out later on that the reason why it went so slick that way is because they had offered it to another actor and they were a little too proud of themselves, or their the representation, their agent pushed a little too hard on the financial end, and they thought, well, let's make sure that we have somebody standing in the wings in case this whole thing falls through. And I was later told that is now I didn't know any of this was going on, Mike. And I guess in between the time I drove home, they called his agent and said, we think your demands are way too much. We're going to have to pass. And they called my agent and said, we're going to book it. It was that quick. So there's a little Hollywood story for you. And I ran into this individual, not knowing the story at all, later at an audition. And he comes up and he's got his hands on his hips, a little taller than me. He goes, I just wanted to see who you were. And I'm going, what the hell? I'm going, well, nice meeting you too, dude. So I said, this is really weird. I had this really strange thing happen at an audition. And they said, well, this is the reason you had those strange encounters. and filled me in. I went, oh, holy shit, okay. But he didn't miss any meals. He had a good career. He never had to sleep next to a cart in an underpass or anything like that. So,
well, for Pee Wee's Big Adventure, playing Francis, did you bring anything, I guess what you would call special, or add anything to the character, or was everything pretty much on the page and you just followed?
it was definitely on the page, but in my frame of reference, there had been an individual at a point in my life that was very Francis-esque, and he you could say he was kind of a composite of all these people that. And somebody asked me one time, and I've only been asked this once, and it threw me because it had been a while since I'd seen the film. They said, how did you develop the walk for Francis? And I went, the walk? Yeah, when you're walking up. And I thought, I got to go look at this because I didn't know I had a walk, but I do. And it's definitely an attitude, and it's definitely Buxton, coming down the street like a little asshole. So I don't know. It was just it was all on the written page. Paul was one of the writers, and I'm pretty sure that every time I had anything to do on the set, the other two writers were there, Michael Varhall and Phil Hartman. Rest his soul. So,
Well, just a follow-up question to that. When you're like working on the film, and this is like one of your first big film roles, did you feel like this is something special, or do you think you felt like, wow, my first film, everything's so new to me? And
Well, it wasn't my first film, but it was my first big A-list film. And Victor Kemper, which had an excellent team. I was in awe of his work and watching the camera crew, the cinematographer, and so I'm going, wow, this guy's done some beautiful work. I mean, they might have not been, films that I would normally care about, but they were big films. Um, and he was obviously the perfect choice. And there was, there were other things that um, that blew my mind. I can't believe I'm here doing this. But as far as having any inkling of how successful the film was going to be, and that it would still be popular 40 years later, I didn't have any idea. I mean, when it was still I mentioned in the top cult films of all times, 20 years in, I thought, and I found that out in a dentist office, picking up something to read. And I'm going, wow, they're still watching that? That's crazy. But a friend of mine put it in perspective. He said, if a film that was released in 1945 was still um, popular 40 years later, that would have been the year that Pee Wee's Big Adventure was made. I went, okay, that pretty much puts it in perspective. Um, and So, David, if you're listening, if you're watching or whatever, um, thank you.
Now, when Pee Wee came out, it's a huge hit. Then he has the Saturday morning show, and now he's even huge. But the thing about it too was that, especially with that first film, that was the first time he was credited as himself, not as Paul Rubens. So in those couple of years, as that movie was being played on cable and on, network TV, and obviously you become more visible because of that, did people come up to you that recognize you and ask you about what's Pee Wee really like? And you're trying to like hold in, like you
Oh
don't,
yeah,
yeah.
oh yeah. Especially at parties, the gay guys would come up and go, "Is Paul Rubens gay?" I have no idea. Excuse me, I just saw somebody else. But did that answer your question at all, or did I sidestep?
No, I think that generally answers it. I mean, everybody, I believed it was a real guy. I didn't know it was like this comedian playing a part as a kid,
Uh-huh.
up
Oh
until
yeah,
that unfortunate incident. But
yeah.
I'm sure, like, for actors working with him, it was tough to, be like, oh, no, he's just a stand up comedian. That's not a real guy.
Well, after watching the HBO two-part special, which had a whole other world that wasn't part of our relationship at all. Um, it looked like he certainly felt more comfortable as Pee Wee Herman than he did uh, as Paul Rubens, and he even said at one point, I should have just changed my name to Pee Wee Herman legally and gotten it over with. But I don't know. He was always Paul to me. Um, so there were things that happened along the way or whatever that I never asked him about, and he never volunteered it. So that it was just pretty much, as far as I was concerned, um, not part of our relationship, and shouldn't be. So,
Understandable. Um, were you ever contacted or maybe thought of for any of the subsequent like Pee Wee Herman projects, be it, the reboot that happened like 20 years later, or even a Big Top Pee Wee?
um, I had what they called it, or what I guess they still call on my contract, a sequel writer. And if they did a part two, I was guaranteed, if I was part of the film, like six figures, which blew my mind. So when people would say, we want you to do a role, well, do it more like Francis. I would just say, no, 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 I've already done that role, without giving anything up. But something happened at Warner, and Paul moved to Paramount for Big Top Pee Wee, and any plans that he had tons of plans, and talked about different characters. One was very akin to Jabba the Hutt, and the character's name was something like Blobby Blobby or something. And I thought, okay, can't wait to see the script on that one. Um, but it never happened, and that's okay. Now he did ask me to do a little cameo in I think 2015, and I was in the middle of moving, and I also uh, I just had given up on the whole Hollywood thing, and I was moving out of California, and I think what I told him was I want to leave Francis where he is. I think that's where he belongs. Um, and I think he was pretty pissed at me because I ran into him coming back from South Africa. Segue here, this ties together, and I had just done Leprechaun Returns, and I I didn't know he was going to be in Dallas, and he didn't know I was going to be in Dallas in the same what do you call that? The captain's lounge or whatever it is.
Hmm.
And this was like a 40-hour ordeal coming back. Yeah, it was not well planned going or coming. And so I probably looked like I just crawled out of a dumpster. And I heard this guy talking. I thought, I know that guy. I know that voice. So I went around to where I could see who it was, and there's Paul Rubens sitting there. So I just walk up, and everybody's like getting real tense, like, tackle him quick. And I said, Paul, it's Mark Holton. And he goes, what the hell are you doing here? I said, I don't know. What the hell are you doing here? I just got back from South Africa. And he goes, well, you weren't in my movie. I said, well, no, I wasn't, Paul. But, we'll just have to get over that. And he had just done a big convention. He would have people standing in line for 7 hours to get his autograph. And he said, this is what I do now. And I thought, well, I don't know anything about that. Conventions, what do they call them? A couple of guys going around going, I'll trade you 2 Batmans for that Superman. I had no frame of reference. I didn't know anybody that went to the conventions. I didn't know what a Comic Con really was, let alone a horror con, or a terror con, or this con or that con. And so we started talking, and he filled me in and got me started. So um, so I credit him for doing that. I don't know that would have ever actually happened. Probably wouldn't have, you know.
So going back to 1985, so Pee Wee's a big hit, and then you have
Yes.
this other movie that is like out of left field, a massive hit with Teen Wolf. Now, you shot that when Michael J. Fox hadn't done Back to the Future, and I understand it was like a shoestring budget movie.
Yeah.
When that came out, did you realize that was going to be such a huge phenomenon with sequels and a cartoon and a reboot?
Um, well, Michael was on Family Ties,
Right.
so he was probably the most, for me, the best character, the most famous character on that show. So he did have that, and towards the end of shooting Teen Wolf, Spielberg would send a limo for him. And when Michael was through shooting, he would, you know, go across the lot, get in this limo, and disappear. And I knew that was Back to the Future. And of course, Back to the Future got press like crazy. So I after the film was released, right on the coattails of Back to the Future, I thought, okay, it's got a chance because it's now it can ride the coattails of the Spielberg film. And that's what happened. But in the meantime, you know, you had it was the VHS, you know, like you said, Andre, that's the way you saw things. You either rented it, you bought it, or you saw it in the theater. So you had a generation of Andres that you know they saw it a million times. And kids, they see something they like, they're going to watch it over and over and over. With this magic box, with this VHS thing, this is the best thing in the world. And the parents would go, you know, they go, oh, I want to rent this, I want to rent that. You rented that 3 times. Oh God, I'll just buy you a copy. Damn it, you know. So and you didn't have a lot of competition. And it just so happens that I had those 2 films, and that same year I think was a little tiny role that I had, one sentence in a film, The Naked Gun. Look, it's Enrico Palazzo, and people would say, "Hey, that's the guy from this or that." Had a guy on, I think it was Sunset. Just I'm walking along, going somewhere, I don't know, and I hadn't seen the film, and he pulls up, leans over, rolls the window down, and goes, "Look, it's Enrico Palazzo." And I went, "Oh yeah, that was my line." I said, "Well, thank you. Have a nice day," and kept walking. So that was, I'm going, what in the hell? You know, that was just trippy, you know. So I guess I need to see the film. And I did, and I laughed, and I'm still laughing at it. And it still holds up for me right now. And uh, I actually, I had a booth or a table 2 down from Priscilla Presley at a con called Chiller in New Jersey, and so I had a Pee Wee's bike behind me, and they would file by to go see Priscilla, and they would look at that bike and say, "I got to get a picture with that bike." I was secondary, you know. Well, bring him in here too, you know. That worked out really nice.
Yeah, they could say Francis still or got the bike back. You know. um, well, my question I was going to be about that line, but you kind of explained from the Naked Gun. I have a question about Teen Wolf 2. Now, I guess it was known Michael J. Fox isn't going to return, but did you expect to be like one of the few people who was actually returning for the sequel? And was there a different kind of energy making Teen Wolf 2 versus the first Teen Wolf?
Um, well, it was you know, you had moved to college. That was the first thing. James Hampton stayed on board. Why Jerry Levine didn't stay as Styles, I don't know. But we were the only 2 that stayed from the first film, and I assume you know, there were other people that they had you know would have just handed them the role on a silver platter, but they didn't want to do it because I think, you know, well, that's a step backwards. I have to work with this. What's his name? Jim Bateman. Jason Bateman. I don't know who this guy is. I'm going to work with him. How old is he? He looks like he's 13. But you know, of course, Chubby could do no wrong, and they just let me get away with murder, anything I wanted to do. And I look at myself in those end scenes, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what a clown. But,
Did they let you keep the wardrobe like when you were in the car with Jason Bateman? You got
oh yeah, I had a pair of boots that looked like Dalmatian dogs, that had fur on them. I didn't keep any of that stuff. I had a really cool kind of faded pink jacket that I wore for years. I don't know what happened to that. I had a pair of Cazal sunglasses, and I didn't know. I didn't. I knew Ray-Ban, Cazal. I don't know anything about fashion or whatever. And I went into Oyster House Saloon, and I'm sitting at the bar, and the lady that one of the owners came up. She's wearing these Cazals, and I've got my glasses sitting on the bar. She goes, "Are those Cazals?" And I said, "Well, yes, ma'am, they are." And she picks them up, and I said, you could pretty much put any kind of a lens in those that you wanted. And she says, "Okay, let's talk." So I ended up with, so many highballs, so many plates of oyster or whatever. We just bargained it out and thought, well, that was easy. Um, so that's my only story. I've got stuff, that my widow will be, um, be up to her to sell it. But
Yeah, because the outfit I always thought was either an homage to Francis or a parody of a Hollywood producer. That outfit because it was so loud and boisterous, and I'm like, but he's supposed to be a college student, like shouldn't he be into more today's fashions at the time? And
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Forgive me.
oh no, it wasn't a question. I was just trying to make a statement about the
Okay.
outfit. Sorry,
Okay.
no. I guess
I'm sorry.
no, no, no. And trust me, because I noticed like Chubby has more of a role in,
Oh
I would
yeah,
say
yeah, yeah,
Teen Wolf
yeah,
too, more to do
yeah.
actually. And I know again, I don't know if you still talk to him, but Stuart Fratkin, who played Styles, says the original script or they filmed more stuff that was a little more original, a little more funny, and didn't play like the first film. I don't know. In your experience, was that true?
Um, well, he pretty much played Styles as Styles' cousin. I think we had a lot of um, improvisation, or we weren't. Nobody said, "Okay, let's stick to the script," because if it was better than the script, why not use it? So the director was very open to anything we brought to it.
No. Okay.
now there was the Teen Wolf cartoon where they brought most of the characters from the original in it. James Hampton's the only actor they brought back, but they have Chubby in there, and you're not doing the voice. Did they even approach you to do it or not?
No, nope, nope.
Oh.
Didn't know anything about it. I wouldn't have known, if I hadn't been told that James had voiced it. I didn't know anything about it. They're going, oh, they're going to do a cartoon. Okay, pass. You know.
Um, Also in 1987, you were in the film Undercover, and you're in the beginning credits. But watching the film, you're only in like, or they only use two of your scenes, and you only have one line. I don't know. Was your role cut down, like in the editing process, or was it always intended to be kind of a smaller role?
It was always a smaller role, but it was work. And they said, well, you're going to go to New Orleans. So I went, oh, okay, let's do this. And of course, I did a lot of research. And back then, I didn't, have the internet or whatever. So I'm asking people, oh, you got to go here, you got to go there. You're going to love it. Bourbon Street, you got to go hear some Dixieland and get this and that and the other. And we ended up staying in Slidell, Louisiana, which is over a bridge a long way away. It may as well have been in a neighboring state. And we actually shot over into Mississippi on a game refuge for the time we went there. And so I think the closest I ever got to New Orleans cooking was blackened catfish one time in the hotel. And it wasn't a 4-star. It was just like throw the blackened seasoning on there, pop it in the broiler, and throw it back out on the plate because I was thoroughly, I was just, oh God, this could have been really cool, but it was better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. Let's put it that way.
True.
So I got to ask you about another small part you had that was pretty memorable, and that was in A League of Their Own. You played the adult version of Stillwell Gardner. And even though it was a small part, did you have to like look at or study the young actor to play the part to kind of get the mannerisms as an adult character?
No, I just you know, you did the face for me and went, yeah, yeah, it is. And I figured, well, that's what the kid's going to do. And I never met the boy. I remember, um, but um, had a lot of or some of the original players to talk to. I really didn't glean anything from them except, just to be with them was certainly they're part of history. So that was really cool. Penny Marshall brought me, and I cannot remember if it was Illinois, Indiana, but it was a neighborhood that looks like it was just frozen in time from 1940. And she just wanted to meet me and talk with me and run the lines with me. And I thought, well, that's Hollywood firepower right there. And that it mattered so much to her really impressed me. And so when I got to the Baseball Hall of Fame, I was I pretty much knew exactly what you wanted. And we got down to the moment that we were going to shoot the scene, and the Baseball Hall of Fame had, I assume, still has a theater where they play an interactive, well, not interactive, but perhaps it is interactive. Scene or whatever, like with the history of baseball, with Take Me Out the Ballpark, playing or whatever. And right as we were getting ready to shoot, she said, "Okay, everybody, I'm going to go upstairs or whatever. Mark, come with me." Okay, what's this all about? But I had asked her people. I said, "What is she into? I know she buys antiques." She says, "Oh well, she likes sake, really good sake." So I had bought this little thing of sake, and it had the little porcelain cup on the porcelain vessel or whatever, and I had it gift wrapped, and I just so happened it was small enough to where I could just set it on the out of the way on the set, and I picked it up on the way up to the theater, and they started it, and I took this box and I put it in her lap, and we were watching the film, and I looked over and she's taking a sip of the sake. And I thought, okay, she hadn't spit it out, so it must have she must have approved. And then from there we went downstairs and shot the scene, and that's what you see. So
I know in one of your few roles where you played a lead, you played John Wayne Gacy in Gacy. My question for you: how much research did you do? And I guess were you? I don't. Was it intimidating to play, a real life person?
mm, uh, well, first of all, I didn't have a lot of time. I didn't have that luxury. Um, and we had pretty much decided to go generic American instead of trying to nail down an accent. Now there was a policeman that did that, and that's fine. But I wasn't going to attempt it, not with the amount of dialogue I had and in the short amount of time I had. But I pretty much knew the story of John Wayne Gacy in real time because it was splashed all over my television every night, and it was also in all the newspapers and the magazines and everything else. So there was a progression of as they found bodies. This guy became more and more demonic. So I knew him. I knew as much about him as I was going to learn by the time he turned the first frame on the film. But no, I wasn't intimidated by playing him or whatever. I just, I'm a character actor. I'm used to getting smaller roles, and I have the luxury, the gift of playing a title role in a feature film. So I thought, well, I need to do this, even though I don't have time. But did that answer your question?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Now, with Leprechaun, I've heard some stories that when that was first being put together, that it wasn't supposed to be so comedic, that originally was supposed to be played very straight, and
Mhm.
or Davis that kind of pushed for the comedic element. So when you came into it, was it supposed to be like a straight, serious thriller, or had it already changed?
It had pretty much already changed. There was a tug of war between Mark Jones, the director, and you didn't have like a hierarchy. You had one guy, and then you had, I think it was a dozen people with a dozen different uh, you know um, pieces of advice. And he of course he once you put something on film, it just it went his way, and finally they're going, okay, we see what you're doing here, and thank God. Um, but he had to fight pretty much tooth and claw the whole way through that film. They didn't want Jennifer Aniston. They balked at that. So I don't know. If they balked at that, I mean, come on. Uh, so he didn't have it easy, and getting equipment, things that he needed, like a crane or whatever. They were giving him shit about the 1 day's rental of that stuff, and forgive forgive my lapse there. I'm sorry. Apologize for my profanity. Oh, get the children out of the room quick.
Not to jump around, but I know that you were on an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and I was just wondering, were you a Trekkie before or after your experience? Mm.
Oh, I when I first got cable, I had not seen any of the original Star Trek, and it came on every day at 5 o'clock. So I got to see it. That was as close to binge watching as you could get. And Star Trek was followed by Hogan's Heroes. So there was a ritual every day. It was okay, Star Trek, Hogan's Heroes. Now go do something productive. And so I was a Trekkie, as much as one could be a Trekkie at that point. Now I knew people in college that had the fake pointy ears and the costumes, and went to the conventions that I kind of thought like, ooh. But, but yeah, and I love the first movie. I love Shatner. I think I've seen one or two of the big A films, and loved them. I had have the soundtrack from the first A film,
Mm.
and recently I discovered that there was another Bolian in another, not Deep Space Nine, but there was another one, the Next Generation, or whatever.
Yeah.
And this young man had sent me a card. I guess it was a collector's card, and he wanted me to sign it because I played the bowling, but he had the wrong show. And I'm looking at this card. I'm going, that's not me. Who is this guy? So I looked him up, and it was a different actor. So I sent it back to him with a nice little letter that said, you needed to send it to this guy. And if you can come up with a card from the episode that I did, please send it to me and I'll sign it for you. But wrote me a nice little letter. He goes, I was so embarrassed or whatever. And I'm going, oh, come on. It's an easy mistake. I wasn't even aware that there was another Bowen. So there you go.
So, I mean, I can't have you on without asking about your Seinfeld appearance in the and doing that episode. I got to ask you, have you ever related to that situation of being online and spiting somebody that's right behind you? Because I know I've been through that in a video store years ago.
Oh, I'm sure. I think maybe we all have. Yeah, that show is just been a gift that just keeps on giving. I don't know. It's like there was this that nice little residual checks that would come in that would be in the better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick check, and then all of a sudden these huge checks started coming in. I'm going, what in the hell is going on? And I would run into people and they would point at me and go, the chocolate vodka, the chocolate vodka. And I would, yeah, that episode. So that episode is not really known as the dinner party, but it is known as the vodka episode, I guess, chocolate vodka. And I still have never eaten a chocolate vodka. So
Neither have I.
better do that. Huh?
Me near. You've had like so many roles over the years. Is there, other than let's say for playing Francis and your line from Naked Gun, is there any other roles that you're frequently recognized the most for?
I think you've hit on all of them. Sometimes people will bring things up out of my filmography that I had forgotten about. Like a guest star on something. The first thing I ever did was a little bitty part. The way I got my SAG card actually was on Webster.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have people come up and go, "Were you in Webster?" And go, "Yeah, I was in Webster." Oh, okay. So, yeah. Oh, that's right. I was. Yeah. I mean, there were a lot of those, and some of them, I have a mental picture of what was going on, and a vague memory of shooting the episode, and that's it. I couldn't even tell you what the title is. If I looked at my filmography, I'd probably go, "Yeah, that must have been it." But I got a residual check for 0.01 cent from, I think it was either Days of Our Lives or General Hospital. I had filmed a half a day at Scale Plus 10 years ago. And I keep those little checks. Some of them are 17 cents. Some of them are 14 cents. Some of them might even approach a whole dollar. But I keep those and I sign the back of them and I put them in birthday cards and Christmas cards. And with a little note like, have a good time on your birthday. Make sure you and the family, whoop it up, whatever. So shouldn't say that because now people will know it's coming.
So, for the long career that you've had between film and TV, and obviously these roles that we've highlighted today, is there any like underrated projects you ever took on that you wish more people would have seen?
Yes. The working title was Return to Cinder with Aidan Quinn. And oh my God, she won an Academy Award for oh, what's her name? And she's like a dame or something from Denmark. I'm drawing a big blank here. Uh, Not Judy Dench. Duh. Um, anyway, it had an A list. It was an A film. They shot it in Tulsa, and then they renamed it Convicted. I mean, just a really stupid title. And I think there was actually um, somebody in the background that was trying to suppress the film, because if you want a copy of it, you have to order it, and it's made, I think, in Germany, and takes forever to get you a copy. And so I know Travolta's wife was in it. I don't know if somebody got pissed off at some point and said, "This film should never be seen. I don't want this film ever seen." That's the only thing I can figure out, because I have yet to run across anybody that says, "Well, this is what happened." I don't think that I'll ever find out, and it really doesn't matter. But it was a nice role, and I had some really nice scenes in it, and I have a copy of it, but I can't say you need to you need to check this out, because it's just as if it didn't exist.
Man. Would you say that is the film you're, well, not the film, the role you're most proudest of, or is there any particular performance you won't say is your best, but you look at it and say, you know what, I'm really proud of what I did there.
It took me a long time, but I think Francis Buxton. I think that role certainly. I think if you took a poll, what's the fans' favorites, the fans of the film, they would certainly say Francis Buxton over anything else. But I think for me personally, uh, along with that, I would have to say Stillwell, definitely, and just that whole vibe of doing that with Penny Marshall in that atmosphere in the Baseball Hall of Fame. That that was my favorite, but I will give them a co-star billing or whatever. I don't know what else I would put up there. I mean, Gacy. I'm glad I got something, that's that with that gravity, that seriousness. But
So as we wrap up, what advice would you give to a young actor starting out in the business?
um, well, you have more tools than ever before in history. You don't have to go to auditions. You can take the audition right on your phone, tape it, record it, um, and submit it, and put it out there, and put yourself out there, and do scenes, soliloquies, speeches, scenes from, and if you can get a partner, even better, and post it and post it and post it on every platform that you can, and send it to casting directors, uh, and and do live theater. Do as much live theater as you can. I mean, if you, no matter what you do, or if you can't do that, create your own live theater to where you get the feedback from living, breathing people that are watching you, not just your boyfriend or or your mom. Oh, my mom really liked this scene, so I'll do this. Put it out there. Get walk out there. And be bold, be brave, and and learn the simple things like how to warm up. If you're going to if you're going to record things, you need to have your instrument ready. You need to have your sinuses and your throat clear, and you know how to warm up, so you're not tripping over things. Because one little trip up, and you go, "Damn! If it wasn't for that, I had that damn thing nailed." And you trip over that one last line at the end because you didn't warm up was simple things like one anybody knows is rubber baby bumpers. But there's stuff that'll tune you up a lot better than that. Like a tutor who tooted the toot tried to tutor two tutors to toot. So the toot of the tutor, is it harder to toot or to tutor two tutors to toot? Unique New York, unique New York, unique New York, to make a proper cup of coffee in a copper coffee pot. And get a list of those. I need to make a video and post it. So they can memorize this stuff, but it really does. I was doing those today at about 10:30 this morning, knowing that we were going to be talking, and you didn't want to hear me muddle around any more than you already have. So.
Well, we want to thank you for being on our show because, again, as Andre said, we grew up watching you in theaters, on video cassette, on television, and it's just an honor to sit down, talk to you, and give you your flowers because your career means a lot to us, and I know it means a lot to a lot of viewers out there.
Well, thank you so much. I opened my mail yesterday. I got a little bitty box, and inside was a Zippo, and it had the scene where Michael J. Fox is on my back, and I've got my fist pumping in the air, and it was just crystal beautiful, clear on this Zippo lighter, and you flip it over, and it has an inscription, and I thought, my golly, I mean, what did I do to deserve this? I got all emotional about it. So I have to thank this person. But little things like that happen. I'll have people come up to me at conventions that say, the only thing between me and going completely insane during COVID was watching Pee-wee's Big Adventure every day. And so I was in the dark. I was just absolutely didn't have a clue what these things mean to people. And if it hadn't been Paul in that airport years ago, I wouldn't be talking with you right now, and I wouldn't be hearing those stories. And so it works both ways. It humbles you, but it also. Oh, well, whatever. I can't go into it.
Yeah, I'll say this much. I'm still waiting for my Francis Buxton action figure. That's all I know. Or something can do Pee-wee toys. They can do a Francis Buxton or a Chubby figure because they had a Teen Wolf toy too.
Well, now that you mentioned that, Andre, the action figure for Buxton will be available for the general public very quickly. All the little, I've had some that I've taken on the road with me, but that's, there's so many people that say, how can I get one? I can't get to these conventions or whatever. and now I can say, okay, finally you can. So I almost feel guilty for, there are people out there that have them, and people are going, well, I couldn't get one. So we're going to fix it. It's coming.
Can't wait.
Awesome.
Well, Mark, again, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you.
It's such an honor, and we appreciate the time that you've given us to tell these great stories. It really means a lot.
Well, you guys are good at what you do. You brought it out of me and made it a wonderful conversation with two guys that I'd love to buy a beer with or something like that.
If you're ever in New York, come through.
Yeah.
Or just sit down and shoot the shit or whatever. I mean, it's when it's just question, answer. Two guys with a microphone and two cameras. It's not fun unless people know what they're doing, like you guys do. That and you make it. You draw out what you need from someone and make it a conversation. So thank you for that.
Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
If you like this review, Please be sure to like and hit subscribe to be alerted to new episodes in the future.